Welcome to the Deep Dive. We've got a really interesting collection of research on health and wellness. And, it's got us thinking, what if, preventing chronic illness really comes down to understanding what's going on in our bodies at, the cellular level? So we're going to dive deep into this concept of good energy, and I think you guys are going to have some serious aha moments along the way.
It's amazing when you look at the sheer scale of the chronic illness crisis. I mean, it's not just one condition, right? It's this whole spectrum. We're talking obesity, autoimmune diseases, diabetes,
Yeah.
even mental health challenges, and the numbers are staggering. We're talking like 6 out of 10 adults are living with at least one chronic illness.
6 out of 10. Whoa, that's a serious wake-up call. And what I found really fascinating in the research is this idea that maybe these conditions aren't just isolated incidents. There's this concept of bad energy at the cellular level that could be the common thread. So, so what exactly is bad energy?
Well, think of your cells like these tiny factories, constantly buzzing with activity. So bad energy is essentially when those factories start to malfunction. And it's not just about feeling tired, it's about this dysfunction at the microscopic level. And that leads to inflammation. You can kind of think about it like a low-grade fire alarm that's constantly going off in your body. And over time, that inflammation can contribute to a whole host of health problems.
So this isn't just feeling sluggish after a long day. This is the foundation of our health, the energy production happening inside every single cell.
Exactly. And this is where the mitochondria come into play. These are those tiny powerhouses inside our cells. They're responsible for producing ATP, which is like the energy currency of our bodies. When they're not functioning optimally, it's like having these rolling blackouts throughout your body. Things just can't run smoothly.
Okay, I love that analogy. So bad energy is basically mitochondrial dysfunction. What really hit home for me was this personal story. They were talking about a woman. She seemed to be the picture of health. Doctors even complimented her on her excellent health in the years leading up to her diagnosis. And then, bam, she's diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer and passes away only 13 days later.
Yeah, it's tragic. But it's a reminder that bad energy can simmer beneath the surface even when we think we're healthy. It really highlights how important it is to understand what's happening at that cellular level, not just relying on outward appearances or even, standard medical tests that might miss those early warning signs.
So what are the culprits behind this bad energy? The research pointed to some usual suspects, right? Like our diets.
Absolutely. Poor diet is a huge factor, particularly overconsumption of refined sugar, refined grains, and industrial seed oils. These are major contributors to cellular dysfunction.
And those ingredients are everywhere. It's hard to avoid them.
It really is. And what's concerning is that these ingredients seem to displace the nutrient-rich foods that our cells actually need to thrive. Things like micronutrients, the vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients that are abundant in whole, unprocessed foods.
So it's like a double whammy. We're bombarding our bodies with stuff that disrupts cellular function, and then we're depriving them of the nutrients they need to function properly. No wonder our cells are struggling to produce good energy.
Exactly. And then, you layer on other lifestyle factors like chronic stress, lack of sleep, exposure to environmental toxins. Each of these can further disrupt cellular function and tip the scales towards bad energy.
It's like a perfect storm brewing inside our bodies. But here's where it gets really interesting. The research talks about this metabolic spectrum of disease, this idea that conditions we often think of as separate, like fatigue, infertility, even dementia and childhood obesity. They're all interconnected through this underlying bad energy.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a spectrum, right? Imagine optimal metabolic health at one end and severe metabolic dysfunction at the other. Things like fatigue might be on that milder end, while something like dementia might be further down. But the underlying issue, that cellular dysfunction, that's the common thread connecting all these seemingly different conditions.
So you're saying a child struggling with obesity and an adult facing dementia, they might actually be dealing with different expressions of the same root problem.
That's what the research is suggesting. It really challenges us to rethink how we approach health and wellness. It's not about treating these individual symptoms in isolation. It's about understanding this interconnectedness and addressing that underlying metabolic dysfunction.
It makes you wonder about how our medical system is set up.
Doesn't it? The research is very critical of how the current medical system tends to focus on treating symptoms rather than addressing the root cause, which is that metabolic dysfunction. And they argue that this fragmented approach, while sometimes necessary, isn't actually solving the problem. It might even be contributing to the rise of chronic illness.
So if bad energy is the problem, Then how do we cultivate good energy?
Well, one of the most promising solutions offered in the research is this concept of bioobservability. It's essentially using real-time data to understand how our bodies respond to different inputs.
Okay, so like being a detective for your own health.
Yeah.
But how do we actually gather that data?
Well, one example is continuous glucose monitoring, or CGMs. You've probably seen those, little sensors people wear on their arms to track their blood sugar
Right,
levels.
right. But wouldn't that only be helpful for people with diabetes?
Not necessarily. The research suggests that anyone can benefit from understanding how their blood sugar responds to different foods and activities. It's all about becoming aware of your individual metabolic patterns and then using that information to make more informed choices.
So it's like having like personalized insights into how your body is actually functioning.
Yeah.
So bioobservability is about becoming more attuned to our body's signals and using data to like really understand what's working for us.
Precisely. This personalized approach can really empower us to move beyond generic advice and actually find what truly supports our own individual metabolic health.
Okay, this is all starting to make sense, but I got to admit, it's a little overwhelming. Where do we even begin?
Well, the research offers a really practical starting point, and that is food.
Oh, food is medicine. I've heard that before.
It's more than that. The research is suggesting that food is information, like a language that our cells understand. It provides them with the building blocks and signals they need to actually thrive.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this food as information concept.
Well, think about it this way. Every time you eat, you're sending instructions to your cells, influencing everything from inflammation to energy production.
Oh, so it's not just calories in, calories out.
Not at all. It's about understanding how different foods can either nourish or disrupt our cells, and how that impacts our metabolic health at the most fundamental level. For instance, omega-3 fatty acids, like the kind you find in oily fish and walnuts, they can actually send signals to our immune cells to, calm down, which reduces inflammation.
Wow, that's amazing. So just by making different food choices, we can actually change the messages our cells are receiving.
Exactly. And the research gives specific examples of foods that promote good energy, foods that are rich in micronutrients, antioxidants, and fiber. Think about those colorful fruits and vegetables, leafy greens, nuts, seeds, all that good stuff.
You're making me rethink my grocery list.
It might be time for a refresh. And while those good energy foods are crucial, the research is equally passionate about avoiding the bad energy culprits. Remember those refined sugars, grains, and oils we talked about earlier?
The unholy trinity of ingredients.
Exactly. They really disrupt metabolic health at that cellular level. And the research actually gives specific examples of how those ingredients are often hidden in everyday foods, even some that are marketed as healthy. It's like a detective game, learning to spot those sneaky bad energy culprits lurking on ingredient lists.
I'm seeing food in a whole new light now.
That's a great start, and that's just the beginning. The research also goes into this fascinating world of our gut microbiome. It's that vast ecosystem of bacteria living in our intestines.
Oh, right. So it's not just what we eat, but also how well our bodies can like absorb and utilize those nutrients, right?
You got it. They explain how a damaged gut lining, what's often called leaky gut, can lead to inflammation and all sorts of metabolic problems. It's like having holes in the security fence of your gut, allowing undigested food particles and toxins to escape into your bloodstream.
That doesn't sound good at all.
Not ideal. And the research really emphasizes how important it is to nurture that gut microbiome. With prebiotic and probiotic rich foods, it helps promote overall health and good energy. It's like tending a garden. You need to provide the right conditions for those beneficial bacteria to flourish.
This is crazy. It seems like everything is connected.
Absolutely. And that leads us to another fascinating piece of the good energy puzzle, our circadian rhythm.
Oh, our internal clock.
Yeah.
I know getting enough sleep is important, but I didn't realize it was directly connected to our metabolism.
It is. The research really emphasizes that our biological clock plays a significant role in regulating our metabolism and our energy production. And it's not just about how much sleep we get, it's also about when we sleep and eat. Disrupting those natural rhythms can have this ripple effect on our metabolic health.
So we're talking about syncing our lives with our natural circadian rhythms as much as possible. That means going to bed and waking up around the same time each day, eating in tune with our body's natural energy cycles, and getting enough exposure to natural light.
Exactly. It's about working with our bodies, not against them.
I love that.
Mm.
This is a lot to take in, but I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together.
It is a beautiful tapestry of interconnected systems, and we've only just begun to explore it.
I'm ready to keep diving. What else did these research papers reveal about the path to good energy?
Okay, so this might surprise you. The research actually kind of challenges our conventional ideas about exercise. It's not just about, hitting the gym for an hour and calling it a day.
Really? I thought regular workouts were, like, essential for good health.
Oh, they are. But the research is advocating for a more holistic approach. Think about it. Our ancestors didn't have the luxury of sitting for hours on end. They were constantly moving, hunting, gathering, or just going about their daily lives. So this research suggests that integrating movement throughout the day instead of relying only on structured exercise might be a more natural and sustainable way to support our metabolic health.
So instead of, like, squeezing in a workout and then being sedentary the rest of the day, we could aim for more, like, consistent movement throughout the day.
Exactly. Even those small movements, like standing up from your desk every so often, taking a brisk walk at lunch, these things can have a cumulative impact on your metabolic health. It's about making movement a natural part of your routine, not just a separate thing on your to-do list.
Okay, that's encouraging. It feels more doable than trying to find, like, a huge chunk of time to exercise every day.
It's about finding ways to move your body that you enjoy, that you can easily fit into your life. And here's another interesting strategy that the research highlights: embracing temperature fluctuations.
Ooh, like taking cold showers. I've heard those can be invigorating.
Cold showers, yeah, but also things like saunas or even spending time outdoors in different weather conditions. The research is suggesting that these temperature fluctuations can actually have these beneficial effects on our metabolism, almost like giving your body this little metabolic workout.
Wait, how does that work?
Well, for example, cold exposure can activate brown fat. That's a type of fat that actually burns calories to generate heat. It's like having this internal furnace that helps regulate your body temperature and burn energy.
Hold on, I had no idea we had different types of fat. So brown fat is the good kind of fat.
You could say that. And heat exposure, like from a sauna, can improve insulin sensitivity, which is super important for regulating those blood sugar levels.
So it's like by challenging our bodies with these temperature changes, we're making our metabolic systems more resilient and adaptable.
Exactly. It's all about pushing our bodies a little bit outside their comfort zones to stimulate those adaptive processes.
Okay, it sounds a little intense, but I'm definitely intrigued. Any tips for incorporating these temperature fluctuations safely?
Well, the research suggests starting gradually. Begin with short bursts of cold exposure, like ending your shower with cold water for 30 seconds or something. Or, if you're trying a sauna, start with shorter sessions and really listen to your body.
Good advice. What other good energy strategies did you find in the research?
One that really resonated with me was the importance of minimizing our exposure to toxins. I mean, we're bombarded with so many chemicals in our modern world, from pesticides in our food to, chemicals in personal care products and even the air we breathe.
Yeah, it's overwhelming to think about all the toxins we encounter every day.
I know. And the research talks about the impact of these environmental toxins on our metabolic health. They can disrupt cellular function, contribute to inflammation, even mess with our hormones.
So it's not just about what we put in our bodies, but also what we put on our bodies and what we're exposed to in our surroundings.
You got it. It's about becoming more aware of those potential sources of toxins and then, taking steps to reduce our exposure.
It's a lot to keep track of. Where do we even start?
The research offers some practical tips. Things like choosing organic produce whenever possible, filtering your water, being mindful of those ingredients in your personal care products, even just opening your windows to ventilate your home and, get some fresh air circulating.
Small steps can make a big difference, right?
Absolutely. And here's another crucial part of good energy that I think often gets overlooked: that mind-body connection.
Ah, yes. The power of our thoughts and emotions. I know stress can be bad for your health, but I didn't realize it could actually affect us at the cellular level.
It can. The research talks about how chronic stress and fear can disrupt cellular function and make that bad energy even worse. When we're constantly stressed out, our bodies release hormones like cortisol, and that can really wreak havoc on our metabolic processes.
Wow, so our mental and emotional state can actually influence our physical health, like all the way down to our cells.
It's a powerful connection, and this research really underscores the importance of cultivating mental and emotional well-being as a core part of, that good energy picture.
Okay, so how do we manage stress and, create that well-being in a world that often feels so chaotic?
Well, the research offers a bunch of practical strategies, everything from mindfulness and meditation to things like therapy, spending time in nature, nurturing those supportive relationships, engaging in activities that bring you joy. It's about finding what works for you and making those things a priority, the things that really nourish your mind and spirit.
It's a holistic approach to well-being, addressing both the physical and the mental and emotional aspects.
Exactly. True good energy comes from a state of harmony and balance within our whole being.
I love that. So we've talked about food, movement, temperature, toxins, and the mind-body connection. Anything else these research papers explored when it came to good energy?
They did touch on something that's getting more attention these days, the potential benefits of certain plant medicines for promoting mental and emotional well-being.
Oh, interesting. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah. They specifically mention substances found in certain mushrooms that have shown some real promise in helping people heal from trauma, manage anxiety and depression, and even gain these new perspectives on life and death.
That's fascinating. Seems like there's a lot of potential in exploring these alternative therapies.
There is. It's important to note that, this is still a pretty new area of research. It's crucial to approach these substances carefully and with the guidance of, qualified professionals. But the research suggests they could be really powerful tools for supporting mental and emotional health. And as we've been talking about, that's all connected to our metabolic health and our overall good energy.
So we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. We've learned about this bad energy crisis, the things that contribute to it, and all these different strategies for cultivating good energy. But with all this information, where do we even begin? It's one thing to understand the concepts, but it's another to actually change our habits and make it all happen.
I hear you. That's the million-dollar question, right? And the research does give us a practical framework for navigating that process. The key takeaway is lasting change doesn't happen overnight. It's a journey, not a destination.
Progress over perfection.
Exactly. And the research suggests a phased approach. Start with those small changes and gradually build up to those bigger lifestyle shifts.
Hmm.
You don't have to do it all at once, just focus on incorporating 1 or 2 new habits at a time.
So instead of getting overwhelmed trying to do everything at once, we should focus on making small, sustainable changes over time.
That's the idea. And they have this really helpful concept called the hierarchy of competence. It outlines the stages we go through when we're developing new habits. It starts with what they call unconscious incompetence, where we're not even aware that we need this particular habit. Then we move to conscious incompetence, where we see we need it, but we're still struggling to do it.
Oh, I know that stage all too well.
Don't we all? But then, with practice and, sticking with it, we reach conscious competence, where we can do the habit, but it still takes effort. And then finally, we reach unconscious competence, where it just becomes second nature.
Like learning to ride a bike. At first, it's awkward and challenging, but eventually it's effortless.
Perfect analogy. And the research really stresses that the key to moving through those stages is patience, consistency, and being kind to yourself.
It's about celebrating those little wins and not getting down on ourselves when we, mess up. This framework feels really good. It's a reminder that we can all do this, even if it takes time.
It is empowering. And the research actually gives specific advice on how to set realistic goals, track your progress, and stay motivated.
Speaking of motivation, did the research offer any practical tools or resources we can use on our good energy journey?
They did. Besides all the sciencey explanations and tips, the research also highlights some really delicious and healthy recipes that fit those good energy principles.
Ooh, now you're talking my language.
I figured you'd like that. They know that food is a big part of this, so they offer recipes that are both good for you and enjoyable to eat.
So we can enjoy tasty food and still nourish ourselves and boost our good energy.
Absolutely. Healthy eating doesn't have to be boring or restrictive. It's about making smart choices and finding ways to enjoy the food that makes you feel good.
This is starting to feel doable. I'm getting inspired to put all this into practice.
That's fantastic. And remember, the research goes into detail about how to make these changes in a way that fits you and your life. There's no one-size-fits-all. It's about finding what works for you and creating a lifestyle that you can stick with, that supports your own journey to good energy.
This deep dive has been so eye-opening. I'm seeing the world and my own body in a whole new way.
It's amazing what a shift in perspective can do, right?
It really is.
Mm-hmm.
But before we get too carried away with all this new knowledge, let's take a minute to just absorb what we've learned and think about what it all means moving forward.
Good idea. Let's take a pause here and reflect on those key takeaways from this deep dive.
Wow, we've been on quite a journey exploring this whole good energy thing. We started by, looking at that chronic illness crisis head on. 6 out of 10 adults dealing with at least one chronic condition. It's pretty heavy stuff. And then we went deep, right, down to the cellular level, uncovering this idea of bad energy and how it might be the link between all these different conditions we see.
Yeah, it's fascinating how the research kind of changes how we think about health. It's not just about, treating symptoms anymore. It's about really focusing on cultivating that good energy,
Yeah.
optimizing what's going on inside our cells.
And we've discovered this whole toolkit for doing that.
Right.
From the foods we eat to how we move our bodies, how we sleep, manage stress, even how we interact with our environment, we've got way more control than we think.
Yeah, it's like we've been handed this treasure map, and now it's time to actually go on the adventure. But like with any adventure, it can be a little daunting, right? Like, where do you even start?
Yeah, I know what you mean. We've covered so much. I feel like I drank from a fire hose of information. So, what are the main takeaways we can walk away with today? What should people really remember?
One of the most empowering things is those little changes, they can have a huge impact. You don't have to change everything overnight. Pick one or two new habits that really speak to you. Maybe swap out that sugary cereal for a protein smoothie in the morning, or add in a 15-minute walk at lunch.
It's those small, consistent actions that really add up over time. That's how we make big shifts in our health and how we feel.
Exactly. And remember that food as information idea. Really pay attention to the messages you're sending to your cells with every meal. Are you giving them what they need to thrive, that good energy, or are you accidentally feeding that bad energy cycle?
I love that way of looking at food. It's not just calories or macros. It's about giving those cells the building blocks they need.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of just moving your body. It doesn't have to be these crazy workouts. Find ways to sneak in more movement throughout your day. Walk more, dance, take the stairs instead of the elevator, play with your kids, whatever feels good.
It's about making movement a natural part of life.
Remember to tune into your body's rhythms. Prioritize sleep. Try to go to bed and wake up around the same time each day, and eat when you're actually hungry, not just because it's time.
It's amazing how much those little tweaks can impact how we feel. Just syncing up with our natural rhythms can make a huge difference.
Totally agree. And as you're on this journey, remember to be kind to yourself.
Okay.
It's not about perfection, it's about progress. There will be days where you don't nail it, and
Yeah.
that's okay. Just get back on track and keep going.
It's about celebrating the wins, no matter how small, and acknowledging that every step we take towards good energy, well, that's a step towards a healthier and more vibrant life.
Couldn't have said it better myself. This whole deep dive has been a real eye-opener for me. It's given me this renewed sense of hope, knowing we have so much power to influence our own health.
Me too. And I really hope our listeners are feeling that too. Remember, you're not a passenger on this journey. You're the driver. You've got the map, you've got the tools, and you have the power to create the life you want.
Love that. So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with this. What's one small thing you can do today to move towards that good energy? Even those tiny actions can make a big difference, lead to big changes for your health and well-being.
This has been an amazing journey, and we're so glad you joined us. Until next time, keep diving deep and keep cultivating that good energy.